Hi everyone. I gotta say I'm a little bit nervous. I'm used to dancing in front of a camera, not really talking in front of a camera, but I'm making this. I wanted to share my story of my battle with anorexia and just offer hope for anyone going through it that there is life after eating disorders and it is possible to overcome. Um, I was driving home with my friend tonight and I started talking about my story, and it really just made me feel like I want to share this with the world. So, here we go. I'm just kind of doing this spur of the moment. I don't really have anything planned, just talking from my heart, and I hope my story can offer hope to at least just one person. Okay, so, I guess it all kind of started when I began dancing. Um, Dancing is very critical on body image, and I always felt self-conscious in a leotard and tights, and um, I just never really felt good about myself, but I never acted on it. Um, I remember being in ballet and just feeling like not good enough because I had a butt, and I wasn't skinny enough, but I kind of just dealt with it and didn't really ever sacrifice my food intake. But then, after I guess I was probably serious about dance for about like 3 years now, I decided to attend a ballet summer program down in Miami. That was the summer of 2009. And I stayed in the dorms that summer, and we had stayed at a culinary school, and there was different chefs that prepared meals, and it was these fancy meals, but I had it in my head that I was there for ballet and I was going to be very serious and, train hard, and I really watched what I ate that summer. Um, and I worked hard and I just mostly ate healthy stuff, and I came home after 5 weeks and I weighed myself and I had lost 5 pounds. All of a sudden, I just felt like, oh wow, this feels awesome. um, Such a good feeling because I had never really lost weight in my life before. I was always very thin, um, but at that point, okay, I was 5'6", and when I came home, I was 99 pounds. So it was like I was under 100, and I felt, like awesome and ready to go back to dance. And of course, when I went back to dance, my instructor was like, "Oh wow, you look great," and I got this confidence in myself that I hadn't really ever had before because now I had the body to go along with my talent. So, I've read before that a lot of eating disorders do start from unintentional weight loss, which is exactly how mine started. It was just like I felt good, so I wanted to keep it up. So, so after I lost that weight, I decided, okay, well, let me keep this up. Let me cut out sweets altogether. So there went my ice cream, and my beloved ice cream was gone. So I really got serious about that. Started losing, lost another pound. So I was like, okay, no big deal. I can cut out some more stuff. I cut out carbs, weight loss, okay, looking good, 97. Okay, why not cut out, I don't have to eat much at all. So I'd say about maybe by September, my eating disorder had kind of become full blown. I woke up and I had half a cup of fiber one for cereal, measured out, for breakfast, no milk, too many calories. And then I would have maybe 2 pieces of turkey for lunch. And then for dinner, I would make a bowl of lettuce with some black beans. And if I exercised enough that day, I would allow myself to have popcorn at night. So I got very disciplined in this regimen. That was my eating plan. I never really broke it. And then my exercise plan consisted of I would wake up, I would go to the gym, I would work out for at least an hour. I had to burn a certain amount of calories. It was usually 500 to 600 calories I had to burn. I would come home. That's when I would have my turkey. I would go to dance for 3 hours. I would come home, and then I had to go on a walk each night, at least a 2 to 3 mile walk. And I lived like this every day. It didn't matter if I was tired, if I was sick, if I was hurting. Nothing mattered. That's the thing when you have an eating disorder. It's like you can't really concentrate on anything else besides that. That's the only thing that matters in your head. It's like, you have this voice in your head, Anna, let's say, and Anna's in your head, and she's the only voice that you can listen to. It's like you want to tell her, like, no, I can't, I'm tired, like, I can't today, but it's like, she tells you, like, no, like, you're gonna feel sorry tomorrow, your stomach's gonna stick out, you're gonna regret it, just get up and go exercise. And I would listen to that voice, I obeyed that voice in my head. It ruled my life, and it ruled my life for 2 years. I wasn't happy, but I felt like if I didn't follow her voice, I would be even unhappier. I didn't always enjoy going to exercise, but I felt like if I didn't go exercise, that feeling would be even worse. So I would go. And as you can imagine, this caused a lot of tension and stress in my family. Obviously my parents were getting concerned about me and, worrying about me because, at this point, I was like 94 pounds at 5'6", and it's just like, that's not good and that's not healthy, and I think they didn't really know how to handle it. I think it was just such a foreign thing to them that they weren't quite sure what to do. So, we would end up fighting a lot because, I wouldn't want to eat. I would constantly tell them I'm not hungry. I don't have to eat if I'm not hungry. And, that's the thing with eating disorders. It's like, if you know someone with an eating disorder and they tell you, I'm not hungry, I'm full, it's like, I'm sure you want to think like, oh, you're just saying that, but it's like, in reality, it's like, when I would say those things, I honestly believe them. I can't say I really ever felt hungry through the course of my eating disorder. Even though looking back, I know I had to be because I wasn't eating enough food for, anything, but especially with the amount of exercise I was doing. But, I never felt hungry. I guess it's just you kind of train your mind because, or I don't know if your body just knows that you won't feed it, so it stops telling you, but you never have the desire to eat. I can't really say that I know why, but just know that if you know somebody going through an eating disorder, when they tell you that, it's the truth to them. So it's not that they're lying to you, because that was one of the things that my parents and I, would be like, stop lying to us, but it was like, I honestly believed I did not have to eat because I was not hungry. So this proceeded for the course of that year. At this time, my dance teacher started getting concerned about me as well. But looking back, it's like so weird because at the time I thought, oh, my dance teacher's just jealous of me. All these people that are telling me too skinny, it's just pure jealousy. And it's like, it was like, Anna telling you these things, these lies, that it's like, looking back, it's like so bizarre that I believe these things, but at the time it's just like, you do. It's hard to explain, but that's why I'm trying to write this, so that if you know somebody going through it, you can help them. Sometimes I describe eating disorders as kind of like in Spider-Man, when it's like the black Spider-Man, and it's like that poison, and it's like, it gets on him and it makes him like evil, but it's still Spider-Man underneath. And that's kind of like what eating disorders do. It's like they take over your body without you even realizing it, but you like how it feels. And it's like, but to other people, it's like you're not the same person. It's like there's something dark about you. So that's kind of like what it is. Okay, I lost my train of thought, sorry. Okay, so that summer then, summer of 2010, I decided to go away to ABT New York, which was like a dream come true for me. Um, and that was another thing that made having an eating disorder tough because I always got into places and, I always did well in dance, but once I lost this weight, it was like suddenly I was getting scholarships to every place I auditioned. Um, and like my life was going well in dance area. I might have been living like a living hell day to day, but in dance, everything was going great. So in my mind, it was like that's all that mattered to me was that. Um, it was a very selfish way of looking. I didn't care if I was losing relationships. I didn't care if I was hurting my family. I didn't care about that. All I cared about was being skinny and like getting into places for dance. Um, so I got into ABT New York and I decided to go there that summer. I got there and I remember feeling like, okay, this is awesome because my parents aren't going to be here. They can't monitor what I eat. Like, I can like not eat anything and nobody's going to yell at me. So I cut back my eating even more there, and I walked a lot. And about, I guess, week 3 in my summer program, um, my mom calls me. She's just furious and crying, and I just remember thinking, like, Mom, what is going on? She was like, your dance teachers called me from ABT, and they just said that they're concerned about you, you're way too thin, and, Alex, we can't keep doing this. So I went home and weighed myself that day, because I hadn't weighed myself, and I was 90 pounds. And I remember getting kind of shocked because it was just like wow, like how did my weight go to this? Like it kind of scared me too. So my teacher sat me down at ABT, and they talked to me and they said, we're concerned, and I told them like, no, I'm fine. Like I promise, I just eat healthy. Like I'm just a health freak. I don't starve myself. I'm fine. Which again, I honestly believed I was. So I come home from summer, and my parents obviously make me start eating a little bit more again. So I got up to about, I guess, 94 or 95 again. And, just living within ease sort of stuff like, if they wanted to go out to dinner, it was like, we could only go to, like, one restaurant because they had, like, a house salad there that I could get. And, things like if, my friends were going somewhere, I would choose not to go because I knew there was going to be food there, and I didn't want to be around food. I would rather stay home and go to the gym. And, I don't regret having an eating disorder because I feel like I've learned a lot from it, but there are parts that I do regret, such as, missing out on relationships that I might have had, and, I don't like the person that I was when I had an eating disorder. Looking back, I realized that I was very nasty and mean, and I think I was very judgmental. If people were eating something, I would look at them and be disgusted in them. How can you eat that when you know how much fat's in it? And, it just made me a person that I really didn't like who I was. And, like, my relationship with God wasn't really prospering at all. I remember there being days where I got tired of it, and I just, I'd cry out to God and say, like, God, I can't keep doing this. Like, I want my life back. And, I just remember feeling like I never would get better. And, I thought I was going to live like this forever. And, sorry, I got emotional there. I was in such a place of helplessness and hopelessness. And I remember one time my mom coming to me and she said, Alex, will you ever get better? I told her no. Like, this is gonna be my life. I can't get better. Um, it ruled my life. I didn't see how it was possible for me to get better. Um, so this proceeded, same old, same old. I would try to get better. I'd tell my mom, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I'll do better tomorrow. And I think kind of one of the final straws for her was, one of my low points. I remember I started spitting, I guess it's called. I would chew food, and then I would spit it out. And I remember my mom caught me once, and it was just like I never felt like I had disappointed her more, and it was just an awful feeling. But again, that didn't compare to the feeling of that I needed to be skinny. Um, so I stopped doing that, but I mean, I didn't start eating. So I guess it was come March of 2011 was kind of when my life started turning around. And another thing I just want to say, a person when they're going through an eating disorder, try to understand that their mind frame is totally different from somebody that's not. It's like when I woke up in the morning, I would start rehearsing in my head everything that I had eaten the prior day and everything I was going to eat that day. When I was talking to people, I would be going over, okay, I had 2 pieces of turkey, okay, what did I eat then? I would go, and this is all that was in my mind constantly. I would have these thoughts constantly, and they never left. I would lay in bed thinking, okay, what could I have done better? What could I have cut out that day? Okay, I ate, half a piece of, I don't know, I ate a quarter of a bite of steak. Like, I shouldn't have done that, and I would have to go do 20 jumping jacks for that. So it's like, it's it's something that's so hard to understand unless you actually go through it, but it's literally like you have torment going inside your head. It's something that is just, yeah, it just makes life so hard. Stuff that should be enjoyable was miserable. I remember even looking back at Young Arts Week, when I went, it's like, that's something that I do look back and wish, like, wow, that could have been an amazing week of my life, like, and I chose instead, like, I spent it in the exercise room and, like, not eating, and it's just, like, that kind of stuff I do kind of regret. It's like, wow, I really missed out on, I could have built, like, lifelong friendships there, and instead I was too focused on what I was eating. But, you make your choices and you live with it, and God has everything worked out for a reason, and I know this is part of my life and part of my story, and, I apologize, I'm not really going in chronological order, but, I'm getting there. And plus, too, I just wanted to shout out to Bryn, because she was just an amazing friend. I don't know anybody that would have stuck with me through this period. She was awesome. She always stuck by me even through everything, and I'm so thankful for that. And she helped me get better, and I will forever be thankful for that. So thank you, Bryn. And so going back to my road to recovery. So come March of 2011, my parents and I took a family vacation that was supposed to be really nice because it was my last vacation with them before going away to college or to ballet school or whatever. So I remember the first night that we got there, it was like 8 o'clock, and I was like, we have to walk, we have to go exercise, I have to go walk. And it was just like, we started fighting because it was just like, Alex, we're on vacation, like, can't you let it go? Like, can't you enjoy yourself? And it was just like, no, I can't, like, we have to do this. And I remember, like, I would, try to manipulate them into, like, allowing me to exercise by saying, like, I would come up with lies, and, like, that's another thing that, like, I'm not proud of is I started lying a lot so that I wouldn't have to eat. I would tell them like I ate already, or I had a stomach ache, or you know, I relied on lies sometimes to get out of eating and allow myself to exercise. But I also know that a person going through an eating disorder, it's like they don't really think they're lying, they just think they're doing what they should be to obey that voice in their head. You don't really realize what you're doing until you look back on it. And I'm thankful that I look back now and realize and can change stuff going forward, and hopefully help people going through it, people helping people through it. So back to my story. So after this huge fight, I told them, oh, I'll get better, I'll do this, and the next day, it's the same old story. I wouldn't eat, and they got mad, we fought. They're like, okay, as soon as we get home, we're sending you to inpatient. And that thought just completely freaked me out. They had threatened me a few times before, but I never really took it seriously. But this time they sounded serious. So going to inpatient just sounded like the worst thing in the world to me. Like somebody like making you eat certain things, I was just not into that at all. But I mean, looking back, like I'm sure inpatient would have been good for me, but of course my eating disorder voice didn't want to hear any of that. So when we got home from the vacation, I remember just one day, it was like the day after we got home, and it was like, I don't want to live like this. Like, it's not worth it. Like, I can do this. It was just like, looking, I know it was God. I mean, I know it was Him, because from where I was to get to that point of actually saying I want to get better was huge. And so I remember my mom made me a baked potato, and she sat me down at the dinner table, and she said, you're not leaving until you finish this. And it took me a while. And I ate it, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt like crap. It was awful. I felt fat, I felt bloated, I kept checking my stomach every 5 minutes. I felt like I was pregnant. It's hard to explain, but it's like the worst feeling in the world is pretty much how you explain it. And I went to bed that night feeling depressed, and like, everything that I've worked for, it's like, you're gonna ruin it on food. I woke up the next day and it was just like, no, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna get better. Like, I wanna be anorexic, and I wanna be skinny. And I remember I sat down and just kind of opened up my Bible, just completely, the old, okay, God talk to me, open it up. And it opened up right to the verse that, don't you know that your body is a temple? And that gives me like goosebumps, like, because I am so thankful for that verse, because that's what gave me the the hope and the inspiration that God is on my side. Like, He talked directly to me, like, I can do this, like, I need to do this. And from that day forward, it was like I got that fighter in my head, and it was just like, my dad had told me, it's like you have two voices in your head, and it's like, the old story of whatever voice you feed is going to be the voice that grows. And as I made those choices day by day, like, no, I'm going to choose to eat today, I'm going to choose to not listen to that bad voice. It's like each day that voice started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And like I tell people, it's not easy at first. Like the first few weeks are gonna feel terrible. You feel fat, you feel bloated, you feel like disgusting, but you push through, because you know that it's not gonna be forever like that. It's only temporary. Because after a few weeks, it started being like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but it's not like it's, the end of the world, okay? That voice starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Come like a month and a half in, it's like, this isn't so bad, you know, like, food actually tastes okay. You know, 2 months in, I was like, wow, this is nice, like, I'm actually eating, and, you know, I still don't enjoy the feeling, but it's not bad at all, you know, and I think it helped that summer, too, because, I got stress fractures that summer, which was a result of not proper eating, and my bones got weak and started breaking, but I got stress fractures, so I had to take off of dance, so I wasn't in a leotard and tights, and I think that helped a lot on my recovery, because, well, and I remember we went to the Hershey factory too, which was like really fun, because at that point I had started recovery, and you know, it was nice to be able to eat an actual piece of chocolate and not feel like I had to go die. So that helped a lot, and you know, it got easier and easier, and you know, by the start of the next year, you know, I felt like I almost like getting regular again, you know. I was starting to enjoy life again, and starting to enjoy foods, and you know, I'm not gonna lie that, you know, I've heard before, you know, like, oh, once you have an eating disorder, it never leaves your head. Like, yeah, that may be true, but you know, my eating disorder voice right now is like this big. You know, it's in there, but it's like, you know, it's more part of my past than anything present or my future. Um, you know, of course, there's gonna be times where I look in the mirror and I think, gosh, I wish I was skinnier, you know. But it's like, you learn to appreciate, you know, my body for what it is. You know, I'm a child of God, and He made me how I'm supposed to be, you know. Um, Another thing that helped me recovering was like retraining my thoughts. You know, like, I remember my dad, he was like, okay, full belly equals healthiness. And so I would always, it sounds stupid, but it really helped. And it was like, okay, full belly means future children. And, you know, that really helped, because it was just like, instead of like that full belly feeling like death and fat and disgusting, it was like good thoughts about it. And it really helped a lot. So I would encourage that if you're trying to get better, or if you are helping someone, retrain those thoughts and just push through. That is the main thing. You gotta fight. Just, that anorexia voice is strong, but you're stronger, and God is stronger. And if you rely on Him, and you fight, you get that spirit, and you just fight and attack it, and it's just like, it will go away. I promise you. It's not gonna stay forever. You know, with God, He can conquer all. You can't beat it by saying, okay, maybe I'm gonna beat it, maybe I'm gonna try it, because they'll win. That voice will win. You know, you gotta fight. That's it. I get excited talking about it, because it's just like, it's so possible. Like, don't give up. Like, you can do it. There's hope for anyone. I don't care if you're in the hospital and dying from anorexia. There's hope. You know, with God, there's always hope. And don't listen to the lies that you can't get better. You know, the lies in your head. That's just Anna talking to you. I promise you, you'll get there. All you have to do is just keep pushing. And so anyway, so now I'm a year and a half in recovery, and, you know, I feel awesome. You know, I love life, and, you know, looking back, I can't believe how in that period of time I thought that this was going to be my life, how I would be living with anorexia. And it's like, now, like, I'm so, like, I'm in such a happy place, and God's been so good to me, and I'm so thankful that He delivered me from that. You know, being skinny is not worth it. While you're going through it, you think it is. You think it's worth it to ruin everything in order to be skinny. But I promise you it's not. You know, I've, you know, suffered some health consequences from it. I won't really go into detail about those, but, you know, that's stuff that I look back and think, gee, you know, kind of screwed up my metabolism, you know, kind of messed up some stuff with my reproductive system and stuff like that. It's just like, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but I did, and I live with the consequences now. But that's why I'm so passionate about helping others, because God wants to rescue you too, and all you have to do is trust Him and give your life to Him, and He will help you. There's hope for everyone, and you can do it. So this was my story, and I'm sorry it took so long, but I hope you take time to watch it. And thank you for watching, and I look forward to helping cure eating disorders one at a time. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me, and bye.